What's up, everybody? Thanks again for joining us on Nonstop Virtual Sessions. My name is Nix, and again, as usual, I have my boy DJ GT,
What's
as
up?
well as our resident producer for our team, Mr. Ravi Sandhu. And today, joining us from the Bay Area, one of our favorites, the one and only Violinder. You guys may have known him as Violinder back in the days, but now he goes by his full name, Violinder Momi. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good, man. Thanks for joining
Great,
us. Thanks for
great.
joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here today. It's been a while since I've seen all of you, and especially Niku. It's like we're supposed to party up this summer. Things happen.
Yeah, this summer didn't go quite as how we planned, I guess, for all of us. But man, so tell us, man, what have you been up to during quarantine, man? What's keeping you off the ledge?
Honestly, I've just been making a lot of music. It's just been a process for me to, as much as performing and being out there, I do miss that. It's given me a lot of time to just kind of look inwards and create and just get better at things outside of creating. Even I wake up and stretch every morning now, which has changed my life. Going out in nature, I'm hiking a lot more, feeling more connected to the earth. So just trying to stay active and stay creative. But other than that, just hoping things go back to normal soon.
So you spent some time in Southern California for a while, and now you're back in the Bay, right? You moved back about a month ago?
I moved back a month ago and with family, so it's nice not quarantining alone.
So tell us about your experiences, difference between Southern Cali and the Bay Area.
The Bay is always home, and I'm sure you guys can attest. It's just there's a different vibe out here, and it's just that familiarity feel I just didn't get in LA. But as far as LA goes, the scene there is definitely great. You're meeting so many creative people on a daily basis. When I remember when I used to live here as an adult, the most people that I would bump to in a daily basis would be in the tech world, or they would be in business or something. So I wouldn't see that many artists. So what I did enjoy about LA was being surrounded by many artists, and that in turn inspired me to create a lot more as well.
Great. So obviously, man, we are the Nonstop team here, and you've been on stage with us before.
Yep.
So do you recall your performance? When was it? And tell us a little bit how you felt about being out there on stage with us.
I'm not sure exactly what year. I think it was 2015, 2016. It was the Diwali show. I remember that. And honestly, it was one of my best shows ever. I've always wanted to perform at Nonstop. And I remember when Jimmy called me, I was more than happy to be a part of it. And in general, at that time, I wouldn't perform in Bay Area much, even though I was from the Bay Area. So for me, it was kind of like a homecoming show, and performing at a show that I grew up going to a lot as well. So for me to be on that stage, and I already know how the audience feeds off the music that's going on stage. Because we've been there, we've been on stage, and we see how turned the audience gets out there. So to be on the other side of it and feel the energy was definitely great, and would love to do it again whenever things go back to normal.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, once things open back up, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be eager to get you out there as well with us. But so in terms of performances, San Francisco, we're Nonstop. Where else have you performed?
There's been a lot of places I've performed. Most recently, I went on a tour in February and March where I went through. At that time, I was in LA, so I went to SF, I went to DC, went to Bahamas, And other than that, in the past, I've been to like Canada multiple times, um, Vancouver, Toronto. So honestly, it's just wherever a lot of the Desi diaspora is, I end there somehow. So it's just whoever wants to call me for that. But I think there's just something really magical about just performing back in the Bay Area and seeing the people that you grew up around and, just be there for you. And it just feels a lot more special.
So Raginder, you've obviously performed around, the country, like you said, different states, different places where you said wherever the Indian diaspora is. How much of those events are kind of like private events or like weddings, for example? Because I know I've worked one wedding with you before, or is it more like public type events or like what, or is it a little bit of both? Like how much of your time is devoted to each, I guess?
It's a little bit of both. There was a time like a few years back where it was more private events.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, like since I started putting more solo music on, it's starting to be a little bit of both. And with the private industry, that's been going pretty strong for the last 10, 12 years. And, that's kind of like, I feel like for a lot of us that do both, the private industry is just kind of something that just keeps us going. So it's like interesting being in a time where like it's still going on. And I remember Niku talking to me last week about this, like how much, like, even though these events are going on, do you want to be part of it? Do you want to risk your health?
100%, yeah.
Go for some of that. But yeah, usually when I perform, it's just a little bit of both. And recently I've been like lucky to also do my own solo shows. And that's been something that's been my goal for a while. And so just trying to keep the both balanced.
Awesome. So I personally know, but maybe people who are watching don't. What would you say are some of those most memorable like events that you've done? I know you've done some pretty prestigious stuff. So what, can you just give us a quick highlight of like what Raginder has done, I guess, on the stage?
So I've been lucky to just be performing most of my life because my parents are musicians and they kind of put me on stage since I was a kid. So my the first really special memory that I can think is when I was a teenager, I got an opportunity to perform with my Ustadji, which in like Indian classical music is like one of the biggest honors out there. So I got to do that. And then as I got more into my career, I was able to perform at the White House. I was able to perform national anthem at like an NBA game. Wembley Arena, I opened up for Jazzy B a couple of years back. So, I mean, the list goes on and on. But I'm just kind of blessed that, I've had these opportunities. And, but I think definitely the most special one to me is like sharing the stage with my Guruji. That was definitely very special.
What's the largest performance you've done, like capacity wise or a guest count wise?
I would probably say it was the national anthem. There was like, it's an NBA game, so like roughly 18,000 people. But that Jazzy B show I did, it was in England. I think that was like about 10,000 people as well. So that was pretty nice.
So you mentioned Jazzy B. What other and outside, you mentioned your Ustadji and Jazzy B. What other big name artists have you been on the stage with?
Punjab BMC as well. I've opened for him before, and
so wait. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that and then last year actually was really cool. I got to play with Beck, the singer.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And he basically hired me and a bunch of other Indian classical musicians in LA to like come up with a set. His songs, and then Chris Martin from Coldplay actually joined us for one of the songs too.
Sick.
So that was definitely a highlight of last year.
That's
How
dope.
was the experience playing at the White House? Like, what was the occasion, and how was the experience for you in general?
It was really it was something that came about like out of nowhere. I was in the midst of like finals week. I was in community college at that time, just like, and I just started getting up and I was like, man, today's gonna suck. And then I got a call, hey, we're celebrating Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab at the White House. Do you want to come? And I just like, I didn't believe it at first. I was just like, nah, like this is not happening. So, but it was true, and I went, and it was a very beautiful ceremony. They had a lot of speakers come in, and then I got to perform. And then at the end, like they took me and a couple of other people to another room, and I got to meet Michelle Obama. So that was really tight.
Super dope.
So that was really nice, and like what was special at that time was also the other group that I went with. It was the Oak Creek Six, and that was actually not too long. Like it was 2012 when I performed there, and that was also in 2012. So I actually got to, talk to them, as well as just see how Michelle Obama interacted with them, and that was very special to see, because you can really see like that care between those two groups, and I was thankful to be there.
That's awesome.
So I know like for our team, we get pretty nervous even till this day. Like we've done thousands of events, but you're at the White House and you're at the NBA games and stuff. So do you have nerves of steel, or do you get little butterflies in the stomach, or what?
Nah, dude, we all get butterflies. You already know that. I think no matter where you're at, like there's always, for me, I don't think it's so much nerves, but more that feeling of like I need to like get on stage and just kind of like get it over with. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm sure you've seen like that anticipation is always like, oh come on, like when is it gonna start? When's it gonna start? So I think that kind of in itself is butterflies for me. But yeah, I think that doesn't stop for a lot of people.
Do you have any like special preparation that you put in before each gig, or is it just get out there and do what you gotta do outside of like rehearsals for live performances? Like any mental preparation, so what do you got any like routine to hype yourself up to begin with?
It's pretty interesting. When I have like this opposite thing what I do when I perform like Indian classical shows. Backstage I'll have like just trap or like really like crazy like hardcore rap playing, and like that kind of like for some reason it works, and it works like in a way where it doesn't remind me of classical music at all. So I get on stage, I can come with a fresh mind. And then if I'm in the other situation, I'll try to probably like calm myself down and go on stage in a much more calm manner, and then let that energy come out on stage. So I don't know why I do it, but it works somehow. But other than that, I just kind of feel it, just kind of go with the flow. Don't like too many distractions. I know a lot of, as DJs, I'm sure like before you're about to go on stage, if someone comes up to you and just starts having a conversation, it's like, ah. But that's about it. Just kind of have like a clear head, clear space, and making sure that I'm fed as well. I need food.
We all do.
Yeah. A hungry DJ or a hungry artist does not make good decisions sometimes. So.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So when you perform, are you usually solo, or are you accompanied by other musicians?
It just depends on the event, the performance it is. So sometimes I get hired for solo events, sometimes I'm playing with a group, and sometimes I've played with an orchestra as well. So it really depends on who I'm playing for, what I'm playing for. But if I'm doing private events like weddings or stuff, I'm usually doing solos, and I play like tracks or some covers. And if I'm doing my own like solo shows, I usually perform by myself, and then I have like a live like Ableton setup that goes into like that, like I can start playing my beats live and stuff as well.
Speaking of Ableton, we're all very aware that you've been producing a lot more lately. So I'm curious, like which DAW do you use for production? Do you use Ableton as well?
Yeah, I mainly use Ableton, and it's something that's kind of like opened up my world because I started off with Reason, and Reason was like a great like beginner level DAW for me. I mean, I know people make a lot of crazy stuff on Reason too, but I felt like once I got on Ableton, I was able to expand my horizons when it came to production. And what I like about Ableton also is just the fact that it's very compatible when it comes to playing live. And as a violinist that makes beats, I want to be able to provide that experience live to an audience as well.
Yeah, Ableton's awesome. It's something that I use as well, and I know it's becoming more and more popular for a lot of producers, especially just the way you can manipulate loops and you can take your stems out and, like you mentioned, take them to live performances as well.
Yeah.
How do you find production different than like playing like violin? Like prepping for like a show and then doing like production on Ableton?
It's two different processes for me, honestly. Because beat making for me, I try to like, it's more of like a build, and because where violin, I'm thinking of like the melody, like the top melody, right? With production, you have to kind of cover every layer. So usually I start with a melody, because that's like what I've been trained to do as well. So I just kind of start with that instinct, and I try to find counter melodies on that one melody or loop or sample or whatever, and then I try to add drums, and then I bring in other synths or whatever is needed. But one thing I have learned over the years is just trying to make less sounds work quicker, because I feel like more I used to go to a point where I used to have like 40-50 sounds on my beats, but I feel like the less you have, and if they make more melodic sense intertwining, I think the better it comes out on speakers or just in the car or whatever.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, less is more.
So production wise, are you producing in so Ravi's usually broadcasting right out of his studio. Today he's got the Golden Gate Bridge behind him, but are you usually in a studio setup, or are you producing from home? Like where do you sit to work basically?
So I'm producing from home mainly, and like my home is like my studio, and it's pretty much been like that ever since I started. And I think it just kind of came out of just trying to be self-sufficient and just trying to learn it by myself. And when I first started out, I like had a $20 mic on Sony Acid, so I think I just really liked being in control. So even when I go to studios, I'm not as comfortable as I would be just in my own space and recording like by myself. So I do like the comfort of being at home and just being able to create that way too.
I'm curious, I know you play more instruments than your violin is your main instrument, but have you ever performed for an audience with any other instrument?
Not often, but like I've done like Rabab when I was younger, and I would play with Kirtan groups like that my dad used to teach in high school. But other than that, the only other instruments I've played has been at school when I went to music school, and like we have like Indonesian gamelan or like West African drumming, so that's like the only time I've performed with another instrument. And then the Ableton Push, I mean that in itself is kind of its own instrument, so that's something I've been trying to get way more familiar with lately.
So dabbling with those, like what outside of violin, what do you have the most fun playing?
I would say Rabab. Rabab's really fun. Just cause like I feel like everyone like really likes to everyone wishes they could play the guitar. I wish I could play the guitar. So Rabab's like the closest thing I feel like that I could get to it. I mean, I want to learn the guitar too, but Rabab's like pretty dope too.
If you learn the guitar, man, I'm coming to you for lessons because I've been struggling.
We can learn together, man.
Yeah, serious. Let's see. So you come from a musical background. Your family's been, well known in the music industry, especially locally for us. Can you tell us like when you got inspired to get into music, and how that came about with and how the family influenced you in that?
Yeah. So honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't think music was going to be like my career path, just because before I started playing the violin, like I wasn't really that great of a musician. I just kind of did what my parents taught me and learned a little bit of tabla and did all that. But I was surrounded by it. I was like constantly surrounded by it, and like it was always in my head, but I didn't know if it was what I wanted to do. And then once I started playing violin, like I improved at a really rapid pace. And I think I was inspired to pick up something at that age because around me, I saw a lot of people that were my friends also excel or start something new. Whether it was like my friends at the Gurdwara are playing tabla really well, or whether it's Fateh, who I grew up with, he started rapping around the same time. So I think for me, the thing was the violin. And once I started seeing like a rapid improvement, I just kind of like started sticking with it. Didn't really think I was going to pursue it even like until like I was like 18 and left high school. So it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then once I started like dropping tracks, that's when I kind of realized, hey, this is something I can pursue in the future. And then yeah, ever since then, just been at it, and now I'm here.
And so, I know your dad pretty well, but if you could tell us a little bit about him and his influence and your mom's influence on your music as well as you were growing up.
Yeah, so my parents were always like they put us in a very creative environment, in a sense that we always heard music in the house. And even till this day, like my dad's always playing music, whether it's like teaching or whether he's practicing, like I always hear it going on. And so that's always been normal since I grew up, whether it was my mom teaching or my dad teaching. And other than that, my mom was a big influence on me, just because she was the enforcer. And I feel like within every parent, you have one that's an encourager, and then you have one that's the enforcer. So my dad was the one that encouraged me to do better, and my mom was the one that made sure that I practiced and I was dedicated to it. So that enforcer was like something that I really needed, because if I didn't have that, I would have probably like not taken it as seriously. And so both of them have had like a major impact in my life, and are definitely the reason why I'm where I am today.
Nice. So when you work gigs, because that's what we do, we work a lot of gigs, so we're gonna get some gig related questions. And guys like us are usually playing your soundtrack. What kind of technical difficulties do guys like us create for you sometimes that just kind of piss you off?
Those DJs, those assholes. Can't get anything right.
I mean, I've had a lot of, for the last year and a half, 2 years, I've had pretty good interactions with DJs. But I feel like a lot of the times, the things that are annoying are just the fact that you can't trust every hall. Like you can have like great sound system, you go anywhere, but there's always going to be a place where like it just does not work. Like the sound's never going to work. And for me, like my main thing is I have to get a sound check, and like I just need whoever's running the sound to be serious. Just because like sometimes it's like, oh, all right, all right, we hear it, all right, cool. But yeah, I think I have more beef with the sound guys. Sometimes the DJ is the sound guy, but like a lot of the times, if there is a sound guy, it's just like, please take me seriously.
Sometimes you don't get a monitor on stage where you're supposed to be performing, and I bet that's probably the worst. I've kind of been standing behind you when that's been the case.
Yeah, that's actually very common. I have a contract, and in the contract it says 2 monitors. I would say 80% of the time I never get a monitor.
Wow, that's so important for what you do too.
Just completely disregard you, huh? In your sets, now you said you're doing some live performance where you're playing your beats to Ableton. How's that different from like, you know, your basic sets?
It's different because it's like doing that beat making process live, where you get to show each layer of the beat and you're actually presenting it to the audience rather than like just playing the beat and then you're just playing on top of it. So I feel like overall it just makes a bigger impact because it allows me to do other things on stage as well, and it gives me a break to like just focus my energy creatively on something else as well. So like what I've been doing, especially for these like virtual performances, is like, for example, like I have a song called Doors, and I bring in like just these bells that are in the song. So the beat starts with the bells, and then I bring in the guitars, then I bring in the shakers, and then it slowly builds. And while that's happening, I'm like building a melody on top of that that's kind of introducing the song. So it's kind of like when you go to live concerts, if you see like you know, any mainstream artist, you see how like the music always builds up. It's never like, all right, here's the song. It's always like seamless, and it's a journey. So I think the Ableton push, it's allowing me to tell a story through my music on a longer format too, because when we make songs nowadays, it's all about how short can the song be, how much can you replay it over and over again. But you have so much to tell on a song, and I think when you have a live audience in front of you that's willing to listen, then you can kind of show them the whole picture of the beat as well.
So now you're just talking about, sorry, go ahead, Ravi.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so when you do your live performances and you're building up these beats, are they like, what type of music is it? Is it fusion? Is it Indian classical? Is it like, you know, hip hop, electronic?
It's like my original music, which is like a mix of like a whole lot of other stuff, but it's very inspired by hip hop. And I play violin on top of those beats that I make. So it's like all original music. Plus, I've been singing on some of these tracks as well. So it's just about like, I've been like very passionate over the past like 4 or 5 years to push my own music out there, because I feel like I have a lot to tell, I have a lot to show from my perspective. So I feel like a lot of my music comes out really well in this type of format when I perform it live.
That's dope. So when you sing, are you singing in English or in Punjabi or Hindi?
So far the songs I've released have been in English, but I do have some new ones that are like bilingual, so in Punjabi and English.
Yo,
Yeah.
can't wait to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was this track you produced with Mandeep Sethi not too long ago, and I think you sang the vocal, like the English part on that one as well, right? Yeah, it sounded dope. Definitely looking forward to, you know, hearing your vocals more often.
Yeah, thanks, man. Just been trying to get better at that.
So now you've been playing violin since you were like early preteens or
I was 11, so
11. So yeah, so
16 years. 16.
So 16 years, and now you're singing. Obviously, all the new stuff you're doing, you have to put in a lot of practice for. Putting in time for practice for that. Do you still put in time on and practice on violin as well?
Yeah, that never stops, and that never stops because Indian classical music in general is it's what we call sadhana. So it's meditation. It's just a way of life. So and for me, music is that, right? I still want to put in that work because I feel like there's so much more I have yet to explore in this instrument. Because whenever I play, I always see like, oh, over here I can improve this, or over here let's try to explore this. I've never explored this, and like that's been like my whole experience with playing this instrument from the beginning. It always gives me roads to where I can lead to. There's never been a point where I'm like, all right, I think it's done. So I still try to just do that, just to learn more from my practice, as well as just see what possibilities are out there, because exploring it will just come out more when you're performing it live as well.
So you mentioned that you're doing the virtual performances now. So me and Jeethi have been talking about this, and you know, the itch to get out in front of a crowd, and and you know, being out there and just performing in front of like people. And we talked about what might be the difference. What if we did live DJ sets on Zoom, or you know, FaceTime, or Facebook, and see what, you know, if it would feel the same. And you know, we kind of come to the conclusion between us that I don't know if I can do it. So what's the difference? Like, are you still getting in, you know, the same like mood and the vibe that you would do a virtual performance as you are like when it comes to like a live performance? Or is this like, does the feeling kind of kill it for you? Like, how do you feel about doing those?
The feeling is actually pretty bad. Just because like you get any.
Like how you just said it straight up. I was like, there's no middle ground. This is just bad.
It's because I mean, I love people that comment, and you know, I really like it gives me like a boost, but at the same time, it's not the same as like hearing a crowd, you know, reacting to something. And I hope that changes. I feel like maybe Gen Z is okay with like, you know, like just comments because they're so used to it, but I feel like millennials, like for me at least, like I need to get like some sort of like crowd reaction. Like if you guys are watching the NBA games, like at least there's like people there, like, you know, showing something on the screens. So I feel like it's missing that. But what I do like about it is you can control your own environment to like your liking. So I've been able to like get my violin to sound exactly how I want it to sound, like on a recording live. So that's been something that I've been able to improve because of these virtual concerts. And now that I know how to do that, I can also apply that whenever I go on stage.
So what, in the sense of like virtual events, I mean, you know, we're trying to figure out when virtual events will be done and we're going to be out on stage in front of people. We've seen a couple of different iterations of it. We've seen people actually going out and doing events, you know, even, you know, with smaller crowds and whatnot. So when do you anticipate your next on stage in front of a crowd or in a crowd performance to be?
I mean, honestly, it just depends on my mood, because I'm getting offers, but I don't know if I want to take any at the moment. I hope, you know, by, you know, like early spring next year, maybe we might have like a vaccine or something and things might start opening up. Yeah, I do want it to be next year because I have a lot of music dropping this year and I want to capitalize off that. I want to perform this music live too, because I spent the past 2 years working on something new and getting better at production as well. So I want to be able to showcase it. So I hope it's sooner than later.
Well, since we're talking about some new music to showcase, tell us about some of your new projects that you're working on.
So currently I've been just in the beginning of COVID, I was basically on the midst of like completing my album. So between the first couple months, I finished up my album and started working on another project. And within that, I've been like also working on collaborations with other artists. I've been recording quite a bit on Punjabi songs. Worked with Emmy Virk. Just did a song with Sherry Man as well. So it's been cool, just been getting like a lot of these Punjabi songs collaborations happening out of nowhere as well. Because I've always took part and recorded in the Punjabi industry, but I feel like this time it's a little different because in the past I feel like I've had to like break boundaries because they usually don't credit instrumentalists on songs. But I feel like lately that's been changing, so I've been more open and more glad to be part of Punjabi songs as well.
When working with you know, other artists, especially bigger artists that are well known in the industry, like, do you have to work in kind of their mold of like how they want you to do things, or is it kind of an open dialogue and they get to like let you just be creative and go at it?
I'm fortunate that like most people I work with they're open for me to do whatever I need to do, and there's always that back and forth. Like sometimes you know, the printer has their vision, and then like either like I'll do something, or like we'll either meet each other halfway. So it's always a very collaborative process, and I feel like especially a lot of the Punjabi singers I work with lately, they're very open to trying something different.
Who's your favorite Punjabi artist to work with?
Definitely Fateh, just because me and him have been working together for so long. But I also really like working with Avi Sara, who is the one that produced that Mirza cover I did with Emmy Virk. So me and him really got tied in this year, and we've been working a lot on new tracks. And so definitely those two in the Punjabi industry I really like working with.
If there's one artist in the Punjabi music industry that you can collaborate with, who would it be and why? Like a dream collaboration.
I'm trying to think, because I've already collabed with a lot of people. You know, I would say Gurdas Man would be pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, I would like to collaborate with Diljit. I already have, but not like, it's not been like face to face. So I think something would like where I'm actually in the studio with him, or like part of the process, rather than like a producer being like, hey, record this, and then Diljit's vocals are on there. I would say either of those two.
What about your English collab?
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, you said you like the rap game, so who's the top on the rap list, I guess, of the hip hop game?
So English, I would love to collaborate with Kendrick, J. Cole, Drake, Young Thug. I've been really into Young Thug lately. And also like outside of that, even like I really like Tame Impala. I've really liked Toro y Moi. Lot of different people. Thundercat, Kamasi Washington. So the list goes on when it comes to like mainstream industry.
Nice. I know you talked about, you know, obviously your parents and your upbringing. There's a lot of musical influence there. Who inspires you besides them? Like, do you look up to any other? I know you have Ustad and stuff. Is there any other artists that are inspired by out there?
So of course my Ustad is probably my biggest inspiration, but also Ravi Shankar is a huge inspiration, just because he was one of the first Indian classical artists to like really break barriers and bring the sitar to the West.
Definitely.
A.R. Rahman is like a huge influence. I also like Shankar Mahadevan a lot. He's like genius. Zakir Hussain, and I like Arijit Singh's voice a lot. He has a great voice. Sonu Nigam. So there's a lot of different people, and even in the hip hop and like American industry, some of my biggest influences have been like Pharrell, Timbaland, DJ Premier, Kanye West, so Jay-Z. So these people have really influenced like a lot of my music and just how I hear things and how I want my music to sound as well.
And in your upcoming album and your projects, are there any big name collaborations that you have that you've worked on outside of the Punjabi artists that you were collaborating with in your personal work?
This one is just mainly me. I have Fateh on there, but I really wanted to like showcase my musicality in this. But I've worked with a lot of. This is actually the most collaborative project that I've put out there. So I have a lot of friends that I have worked with in the past that I also have on here, such as Sodavine. Sodavine's a DJ producer from Calgary. Also worked with Empower from Vancouver, and Matthew Elton Smith, who's a drummer producer from LA. So a lot of different people that I haven't worked with in the past and people that I have worked with in the past. So it's been a very rewarding project in that sense, because a lot of the tracks came about during moments that I had with these people, and just kind of came out of normal interaction that I had with these producers, or just me creating a beat and it leading into like a whole song like in a day or two.
Now, how does it like all differ from what you've done in the past? Is it, you know, a lot of the same vibes, or did you go with any particular like vibe for the whole album? Like, what was your mindset, and how do you make, you know, what did you change?
So I feel like the biggest change is just how I was saying. A lot of these were very organic moments, how these songs came out, and in the past, the way I would go about my music was I would really be calculated about it. I would think about it a lot. I would spend a lot of time working on one little sound in the production. But this time I try to focus more on that feeling of flow and that artistic flow that, you know, that you just kind of get when you're in that zone. So most of the songs were created in that kind of flow, whether it's like one of the songs that I did, I was just making a beat one day just in my living room last summer, and I just happened to bring my mic. I was like, let me just record some stuff on it, and within like 3 hours I was done with the whole song. And that was Fade Away, the song that I released in April. So a lot of the songs came about like that. And so that's kind of the theme that I've been going with, just kind of this natural thing that just kind of flows. And even like the song that I did with Fateh, I just made this beat, I sent it to him, and he sent it back to me like in a day. It just kind of flowed. So that's kind of the theme, and I hope people can resonate with it. People can like hear that a lot of these songs came out of moments. So there's not one particular sound, but it's like different moments in time that you can hear within each song.
So how do you find inspiration these days? I mean, with like COVID and everything going on and sheltering in place, like, is there like a certain routine you have or a certain environment that you have to be in that inspires you, or does it just come naturally?
It's a balance of things. I can't predict a lot of my brain. Sometimes like I'll just be sitting there and I'll have ideas out of nowhere. But I feel like what works best for me is if I have a routine, if I'm like, you know, if I'm exercising a lot, like I feel like if I'm working out, I'm getting a lot of ideas. But I think what I've started to do a lot more, especially since the making of this album, is making music based off my experiences rather than trying to create. Because before I would create to like make something complicated or make something that I would be very focused on the composition. But like, for example, I have a song where the theme came out of like just me and my sister sitting in the garage, and we just started mumbling some random words, and we just put words in that, and that it went really well with the beat. So we just kind of stuck with it, and then I just built on top of that, and I built on top of that, and it just kind of built and turned into a really great song. So I felt like that's what I'm trying to like chase now whenever I'm trying to make music, is whether it's singing, whenever my lyrics have a lot to do with just my life experiences, and if I hear a beat, what am I feeling from that beat, and what can I take out that's a life experience that I can put on this beat. So just kind of going off of what I've experienced and putting it out on music.
Nice, that's awesome.
So 2020 seems like it's pretty much like a wash when it comes to performances. Getting ready for 2021, you know, vaccine hits and we're good to go. We're going to get out on stage. What are you going to bring different to the stage next year?
One thing, okay, so what I'm gonna bring different is I'm gonna have a whole new collection of songs to perform, which is like great because I've been holding on to these for a while. Another thing is just a lot of the things I've been working on, whether it's like crafting my sound, whether it's playing Ableton Live, um, and I think other than that, just a different perspective. I feel like me going on stage is gonna feel different next time I'm on there, and even when I meet people, it's gonna be different. So I feel like the experience that the experience I'll give out on stage will be very relevant to the time that we spent through all this, you know, COVID, and really realizing how precious this all is. So I feel like that will definitely carry over into the music. And other than that, you know, just want to bring a lot more fun on stage. Just make sure that, you know, like I really want people to be able to like resonate with my music so I can perform it and hear people say those lyrics in the songs. And it's like, you know, everyone's dream, every producer's dream. I'm sure you can relate. You all can relate about like if you make a song, you want to be in a crowd and they can like either hum it or they can sing it back to you, and that's like those moments that you live for as an artist.
Before we like sign out, man, do you have anything you want to say to all of our listeners for Nonstop Bhangra and, you know, the San Francisco and, you know, throughout the U.S. that, you know, follow us?
Well, one, I just wanted to give a shout out to Nonstop Bhangra for creating a space for, you know, DJs, musicians, and creating a space for people that where they're able to come and celebrate their culture without any bounds, with other people, with other ethnicities. And it's a very special event to go to, and I always enjoy my time whenever I'm at Nonstop Bhangra. So I mean, I'm sure whoever has been there already knows this. And to other people who follow this, whenever you can and whenever things get better, find yourself at Nonstop Bhangra because you'll have the best time of your life. Other than that, just keep a lookout. I'm gonna be dropping a lot more music soon. You can find me anywhere at Raginder, and yeah, that's about it.
Hey, before we go, can you sign us off with some music?
Sure.
Oh, snap! I like it.
The perks of having a musician on the show.
Wow. Lucky us. That's
Wow.
amazing.
That was beautiful.
Amazing, man.
That
Thank
was
you so
awesome, man.
much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me today.
All right, man. That was your boy, Raginder Momi. Thanks so much for joining us. Ravi, GT, thanks for logging on today. Once again, everybody, thanks for tuning in to Nonstop Sessions.
Peace.